Imagine selling your family farm, leaving behind generations of wealth, and moving across the ocean with dreams of safety and prosperity, only to end up stuck in a cheap motel, broke, jobless, and desperate. This is the shocking reality of many Afrikaner families who left South Africa after Donald Trump's government promised them protection and a new life in America. What they thought would be the American dream has turned into an American nightmare. These families now find themselves in a foreign country where the promises made to them have crumbled into dust. But how did it all go so wrong? And why are these Afrikaners now regretting their decision? Before we continue, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the African Web for more stories that uncover the hidden truths about Africa and the world. To understand why Afrikaners left South Africa in the first place, we must go back to history. Afrikaners are descendants of Dutch, French, and German settlers who arrived in the 1600s and 1700s. Over generations, they established farms, expanded their territories, and entrenched themselves in South Africa's agricultural heartland. Their dominance was protected by a series of laws and systems that worked in their favor. One of the most defining was the 1913 Native Land Act, which prohibited Black South Africans from owning land outside designated reserves. This forced millions into tiny, overcrowded areas while locking fertile farmland into white hands. For decades, Afrikaner families grew wealthy, passing estates down through generations, while Black South Africans were left landless and often forced to work as cheap laborers on farms they could never own. Even when apartheid officially ended in 1994, this imbalance did not disappear overnight. The new government promised land reform, but progress was slow and contested. Afrikaner farmers still held much of the best farmland and remained economically powerful. This history shows clearly that Afrikaners were never the marginalized group they sometimes portray themselves as. Rather, they were among the greatest beneficiaries of a system built on privilege. By 2025, however, a very different narrative took root internationally. Far-right groups in the US and Europe began spreading stories that white farmers in South Africa were being targeted in a campaign of murder and land seizures. Social media amplified these claims, with viral posts, blogs, and videos portraying Afrikaners as victims of violent ethnic cleansing. High-profile figures joined the chorus. Elon Musk tweeted about farm murders sparking a global storm. Influential media outlets picked up the story, often leaving out key facts. In reality, South Africa does suffer from one of the highest violent crime rates in the world, but it affects all races. Statistically, Black South Africans are far more likely to be victims of murder than white farmers. There was no evidence of a government plan to wipe out Afrikaners, nor was there a wave of forced land seizures. Still, the narrative was powerful because it tapped into fear, race, and politics. Donald Trump seized the moment. He painted Afrikaners as an endangered minority who deserved saving. His administration created a special asylum program just for white South African farmers, while at the same time denying entry to refugees from war-torn countries like Syria, Sudan, and Afghanistan. The contrast was stark. Television cameras at Johannesburg's OR Tambo Airport captured hopeful Afrikaner families boarding planes, carrying dreams of new homes, jobs, and a safe future. Yet, the asylum process often relied on personal claims rather than verified evidence. For instance, a farmer from Limpopo named Charles Kleinhaus said he was threatened and faced land seizure attempts. But South African records later revealed no police reports, no legal actions, and no official evidence of danger. His claim was accepted anyway. This showed that the program was less about facts and more about creating a political story that could win points at home. The reality that greeted these families in the US was very different from what they had been promised. Instead of suburban homes and stable jobs, many were placed in budget motels, with entire families crammed into one small room. Parents had no income or support, children missed out on education, and some families had no access to phones or basic health care. Charities and online fundraising became their lifeline, with some relying on food donations just to survive. Online forums for South African expatriates are filled with heartbreaking stories. Parents speak of crying themselves to sleep, children feeling lost in a strange culture, and families admitting they wish they had never left South Africa. But for many, there is no easy way back. Their farms and businesses were sold, and returning would mean admitting that their asylum stories were exaggerated. The fear of shame, embarrassment, and even legal consequences has left them trapped in limbo. Another reason the transition was so brutal is that Afrikaners had long enjoyed social and economic privilege in South Africa. Their land ownership gave them wealth, influence, and access to loans and networks that kept them financially stable. Even after apartheid, many Afrikaners remained in a position of comfort compared to the majority population. In America, that privilege disappeared overnight. Here, being white was not a minority identity. It was the norm. Afrikaners who arrived without wealth or powerful connections quickly discovered they were just another group of immigrants, expected to start from scratch. Many ended up taking low-paying jobs they never imagined for themselves, cleaning offices, cutting grass, or working as security guards. The fall from being part of a landowning elite to becoming struggling migrants was not just financial, it was deeply psychological. It stripped away their sense of status, pride, and identity, leaving many to question how they ended up in such a humiliating position. This saga also highlighted the double standards of Trump's policies. On one side, his government turned away refugees fleeing war and destruction in unstable regions, claiming national security concerns. On the other, it welcomed Afrikaner farmers from a stable democracy based on questionable stories of persecution. For many South Africans, this was a painful insult. Prominent academic Jonathan Jansen described it as a slap in the face to Black South Africans who had endured generations of land dispossession and poverty. The idea that Afrikaners, the very group who benefited most from apartheid, were now being portrayed as global victims was seen as absurd. Across South Africa, the program was widely mocked as a political stunt, and its collapse today makes that judgment all the more accurate. What was promised as a rescue mission has ended in tragedy. Families who thought they were leaving for opportunity are now living in despair, stuck in cramped motels, hustling for charity, and trapped between two worlds. They cannot rebuild in America, yet they cannot go home. What began as a political move to stir emotions and gain support has left real families broken, displaced, and stripped of dignity. Their lives have become a warning about how propaganda and privilege can collide with devastating consequences. So, what do you think? Were these Afrikaners truly victims who deserved asylum? Or were they pawns in a much bigger political game? Should they be welcomed back to South Africa? Or must they live with the consequences of their decision? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the African Web, and press the bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into Africa's politics, history, and stories that shape the continent.